Good morning, party peeps. Happy hump day. Guess what day it is? Hump day. You're almost there. Pretty exciting to have the option to be taking summer driver's ed. You're doing online and you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday left. So you've worked hard. Please continue to work. I see your work coming in. Some of you pretty late. So make sure you're working on the day's agenda. Make sure you're dedicating your classroom time, 3 hours, and then going beyond all the way until you catch up. And then you'll be there. So make sure you put yourself in a pretty good position. Okay. Now today I wanted to, this concept is pretty tough for me. All my concepts are built around crash avoidance. We talk about defensive driving. The primary goal is to avoid crashes, to do everything you can using the SIPD and the Smith system to be aware and to compensate for the other driver, right? Concept 2, signs, signals, markings of the road. They establish right-of-way rules and protocol and safety protocol and standard operating procedures when you come to different situations. It tells you when there's a curve ahead, a bump ahead, a dip ahead, speed limit change, railroad, lights, pedestrians, bike lanes. I mean, the communication that is available to help you be aware and to avoid crashes are very significant. And the setup of all the lanes for left turns, for the shared turning lane, everything is designed with you in mind. How can we make everything stay flowing? How can we help people share the road and make sure everybody understands what they should be doing? So sign, signals, markings of the road prevent crashes. Concept 3, without a doubt. When we put concept 3 together, proper following distance and the basic speed law, we went right at the number one killers and the number one reason we crash. With speeding, we have to get our speed under control. We have to develop habits and a level of accountability that we drive the speed limit. Because the faster you go, the harder you're going to hit. The faster you go, the harder it's going to be to stop. And it's just physics. Speed times weight, right? You have momentum coming. And the harder you're going to hit, that third collision that happens. And today we're going to talk about the third collision that happens in a crash. And so pay attention to that in the presentation on seatbelts. And the proper following distance rule. Always managing time and space around you so that you have time to react and space to carry out the reaction. So huge at attacking crash avoidance. I mean, statistically, those ones are a no-brainer because speed is the number one killer for all age groups, and following distance is the number one reason we crash for all age groups, okay? And so that's big. And then we go to concept 5. We leapfrog today, and we go to concept 5, and that's my triple Ds, driving under the influence of distractions, drowsiness, and drugs. And obviously, those are huge contributors to crashes too. If we're not paying attention, I just want you guys to remember this little gesture that I'm doing with you today. How long does it take to get into a crash? Just like that. Just like that, things can change. And if you are not paying attention, that can go. And you heard that from my story as a 17-year-old kid, taking my attention off the road too long. And then, boom, crash happens. If we look down at our phone, we adjust the radio. If we look over to talk to our friend too long, there's so many distractions that can happen. Of course, cell phones are the number one, and we'll talk about that coming up on Friday with Concept Day. So with today's, so everything is geared toward crash avoidance. All my concepts are to save you. I have you in mind when I'm teaching these concepts, and I want you to be safe. Because you're here for a reason. You have goals, you have dreams, you have plans. And an early exit at a car crash is just always tragic to me. It makes me wonder, what were you here for? What were you supposed to do? And so I really design my lesson plans and curriculum, and I wish I could be there in person, because I want to reach into your heart in a lot of these concepts and just say, come on, you got to take this driving serious. It's going to be awesome. It's going to rock to have your own car. So many of you said, oh, just the freedom, the ability to go when I want to go. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to love it. Your parents are going to love having you with a driver's license, because it eases their load. They can no longer have to run those errands that you can help them with. I mean, they're so busy. Your parents sacrifice so much for you to run you places, and they love doing it, kinda, right? They'll do it because they love you and they want to support you. But man, it's a lot of time. I think about all the running around we do in our family, and it's crazy. My wife drives all the time, cruising around kids. I drive all the time, running our kids to and from. And once they get a license, that freedom is amazing, and you're going to love it. But I want you to understand the responsibility and accountability of a license. I don't want you to overlook that as a young, inexperienced driver who's interested in being the best that you can be, who's interested in gaining experience. You just have to keep everything in check. And so I know this is a lot of information to process. I know it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose right now. We're sending you on driving homework. We're having you watch presentations. We're sending you through videos, sequences. We're having you sign contracts and do quizzes and stuff like that. It's a lot, right? There's a lot here. But I want you to understand the value that's coming at you. There is a lot of wisdom in a driver's ed class. And because it's so practical, the content that I'm teaching in this course is extremely practical. It's stuff you're going to be using every day of your lives from here on out. Driving doesn't go away, right? Now, the way we drive will change. I mean, sure, we're going to have autonomous vehicles. Sure, we're going to be doing more carpooling, electric cars. Who knows? We'll be flying cars before too long. That'll be sweet. I'm down for that. But no matter what, driving is going to be a part of our lives. And it's going to be a way, because it's a form of transportation, and we need to get from point A to point B. And until we can teleport, we got to hop in a car. Or a car has to take us somewhere, even if we're not driving it. So everything that we're coming at you with is for your safety, for your good, for your training, and to prevent the crash, because the number one reason teenagers die in the world, like, yes, COVID is scary, but it's not your number one. Cancer, terrifying, but it's not your number one. Overdosing on drugs, terrifying, happens, not your number one. You look at all the preventable ways of dying, and the top tier, number one, is dying in a car crash. And so I'm completely invested in your training so that you won't crash. Because the bottom line is, there's no way you can die in a car crash if you're not in a car crash, right? I mean, come on. That's common sense. Captain Obvious would tell us that, right? If you're never in a car crash, you can't die in a car crash. And so that should be our number one goal. So 4 out of the 5 concepts that I teach focus on preventing the crash. But today's concept focuses on a different topic, and that topic is seatbelts. And statistically, they say, if there was a true and false question on a test that said a seatbelt gives the driver more control, that answer is absolutely true. Absolutely true. It locks. It holds you in place. It keeps you in the driver's seat to be able to reach everything you need to reach. Steering wheel, brake, emergency brake, brace yourself against the door, right? Like, you're there, okay? All the safety features in your car are predicated on you being somewhere. Airbags come out, you should be in a certain location so the airbags don't hurt you. And so what is the device that keeps us there? And that's the safety belt. That's the seat belt. And so today's concept does not prevent a crash. Just because you have a seatbelt on, I mean, people crash all the time while wearing a seatbelt. But remember when we talked about in concept 1 the what if question? And not the what if, I'd bail going down a hill. The what if question of, what if something happens? How am I going to be prepared for that event? And so the ultimate what if is, what if I crash today? Right? Of course we're focused on not crashing. But crashes happen every day. So when you get in the car, what if I crash today? Well, then what would you think about doing? I wouldn't even, if I knew I was going to crash that day, there was no way I would not be in a seatbelt. I'd try to put on another one, right? Reach over and put that one on too, right? Like, if I knew, I could see into the future and say, whoa, today is the day I get in my crash. Like, if I was that 17-year-old boy again on the second day of basketball tryouts, heading from my best friend's house and forgetting the seatbelt, if I would have in the driveway had some foresight to say, whoa, today, even though you've been having a perfect driving record, no tickets, no problems, today you're going to get in a crash that is so significant that it's going to send you through the windshield and rip up your knees and almost kill your best friend. Do you think I would forget the seatbelt? Heck no, right? And so the ultimate what if question is, what if I get in a crash today? What's my best protection? And statistically, 2 out of 3 fatalities are avoided when seatbelts are worn. It's not 3 out of 3. People do die in seatbelts because the impact is too significant. And you'll hear in today's presentation about that, of the third collision is what kills people in a crash. And that third collision is what a lot of people overlook. And that second collision impacts the third collision. And I don't want to steal the thunder of the presentation, so I'll let you find that in the presentation and kind of talk about that with your parents. But wearing a seatbelt, I have to have everybody in a seatbelt. I just, like my own kids, that's like, oh my gosh, you're out there, you're living your lives. I have a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old. Hey, you're adults, off you go. But, wow, you gotta wear your seatbelt. And all the other choices that you make in life, hey, make the choice to wear a seatbelt 100% of the time. You got to be 100%er, okay? And so the reasons why this lesson, it's a pretty emotional one for me, and I'm a pretty emotional guy. A good Hallmark commercial will get me crying. My family makes fun of me all the time because when we're over watching movies and a tender moment comes on, I guarantee I'm over there crying. My emotions are close. I have a very caring heart. And so when I talk about students or even youth, I get pretty emotional because there's a reason I teach. I love being around students. I wish I could be around this whole class. Your get to know you videos and everything, you just seem like wonderful. We would have had a blast in class. And so I care about you, even though I don't really even know you and you don't really know me. I care about your safety. And I care that you're getting something out of this course because I feel accountable. You're about to hop into a 4,000-pound machine and head on out. And that 4,000-pound machine can do a lot of damage. And so I want you to be mindful as you're coming out. But this concept is the ultimate what if. And the reasons I am passionate about this concept the most is if all goes wrong, right? If you forget the SIPTE and the Smith system, if you forget to manage time and space, if you forget to watch for the signs, signals, markings, the road, if you forget to not drive distracted, if you forget to have a safe alternative getting home when there's drinking or drug use, if you're feeling tired behind the wheel, and I know that one's a little funky because most of you right now are like, how can anybody sleep under these conditions? Like you're driving a car and it's a pretty, it gets your attention. How could you perfect nappy time? Like not many people at your age are thinking, hey, good time for a nap. But drowsiness happens. And teenagers, you guys burn the candle. I guarantee most of you went to bed after 2 o'clock last night and you're waking up early, getting going. Some of you for the 8 o'clock class that starts in a little bit. Today I wanted to direct your attention to the Zero Fatalities website and look at the not buckling up section. So you'll look at the, let me pull it up real quick. But you'll look at, there's some journals and stories. They do some books. And these books are personal stories. And they create these books every year. And they try to put faces and names together. And when you look at the prevention screen, prevention tab, I want you to click on the prevention tab and then go down to not buckling up. and it will have little tabs, and it will have information, the facts about not buckling up, and they'll have all sorts of videos that I want you to kind of plow through. Good little commercials and statistics and stuff like that. But there's also a link to some of the memorials, teen memorials. And so I want you to find those teen memorials and read the story about a student from Woods Cross High School. And her name was Portia. And still, in my truck and car, I have a wristband that was handed out that year when Portia's life was lost. And she was a seatbelt advocate in her family. She talked about seatbelts all the time. But she got caught, just like I got caught. And just like thousands and thousands of people get caught every year, in that moment they forget to wear the seatbelt. And so today's action word is remember. Okay? I need you to remember. I need you to create a pre-driving routine that always involves a seatbelt. When you get in the driving groups, we'll talk about the core four, and we have you get into the car, and number one, we lock the doors. Number two, we adjust the seat. Number three, we put on our seatbelt and check everybody else in the vehicle. And then four, we adjust our mirrors. And now we're ready to go. If we do the core four every time, I can guarantee every one of you will be in a seatbelt. Okay? But the reasons I wear a seatbelt is because I crashed without a seatbelt when I was 17. I almost killed myself and my best friend. Obviously, that would have been a game changer in a lot of ways, right? If I live and my friend dies, he lives and I die, how that impacts both of us is huge, and our families and friends and everything is awesome. Awesome, not good awesome. It's significant, right? And so listen to the presentations today. Watch the videos today. Spend some time on the Zero Fatalities site, on the seatbelt page. There's a bunch of extra videos there. Just march through them, okay? And it'll be a part of your assignment today. I'm loading that up as we speak. So enjoy today's concept, but please come away with the action word of remember, right? Remember. Remember to wear your seatbelt. It's your best source of protection in a crash. And make sure everybody else is in the vehicle is wearing a seatbelt as well. So watch the videos. They're powerful. Take the time. I know you're stressed trying to catch up. Some of you are right on key. Some of you are even ahead. That's awesome, right? But today I want a moment of pause because I want this one to sink in. I really want you to understand the significance of wearing your seatbelt continually and making sure your family members are in a buckle. Okay? So click it or ticket, people.